I think we probably have enough numbers for us to start. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you again to the second in the series of our Founders Series of Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy, where we're looking at the topic of building and maintaining a sustainable eye care institution in sub-Saharan Africa. It is a series that holds every first Saturday of the month, and this is the second in the series. We're hoping that we'll have up to 10 by the end of the year. My name is Adeyemi Oyewumi. I'm part of the Eye Foundation Hospital Group, and I welcome you again to this session today. Just a quick points about the house rules. I think the only major rule we have is just kindly help us to mute your microphone to reduce distraction during the whole session. We appreciate if you're able to do that in the course of the presentation today. Just a quick background, just a sentence on some background on Eye Foundation Hospital Group. Eye Foundation Hospital Group is was founded over close to 30 years ago by Dr. Kunle Hassan, who is our speaker today, and has been at the forefront of promoting quality and excellent eye care in Nigeria and across the region as well. Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy is a component of the Eye Foundation Hospital Group that oversees training of ophthalmology professionals and practitioners. And so we are anchoring this session under the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy. Today's session will be moderated by Dr. Ayo Harriman. She's a director at the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy. And Dr. Harriman, can I hand over to you?
Very much, good afternoon, colleagues, friends. This is the second in the series of 10 lectures on building and maintaining a sustainable eye care institution in sub-Saharan Africa. Today's topic is meeting the challenges of a startup in ophthalmology practice. The first lecture was the beginning of the journey. And for those of us who are joining this series for the first time, Dr. Kunle Hassan is the founder and chief medical director of the Eye Foundation Hospital Group. He's an internationally recognized consultant and ophthalmic surgeon and has been the recipient of several lifetime achievements and excellence awards, including the Golden Apple Award of the International Council of Ophthalmology. He has over 120 publications to his name and has made great strides in the field of ophthalmology, being one-time president of the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria, a board member of the International Council of Ophthalmology, president of the African Ophthalmological Council. He's also been a council member of International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. He's not only clinically inclined, but he has also played a large role in the corporate world, including Diamond Bank PLC, now Access Bank PLC. He's currently the chairman of Health Partners Limited, Deseret International Hospitals Limited, Summit Healthcare Hospitals Limited, and recently has been appointed as the chairman Board of Management of Onobisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital, Ogun State. Through the Eye Foundation Hospital Group, he has created a robust and sustainable infrastructure to drive his vision to eliminate avoidable blindness in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. We therefore look forward to what Dr. Hassan has to tell us about starting an ophthalmological practice. So good afternoon, sir, and we're here to listen to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harriman, for your kind words. It's a pleasure for me to be here again to share the milestones that we, over the last 30 years, that we've been putting in place to be able to achieve the success of Eye Foundation as a team. Today, I'd like to talk about the challenges the startup practice in ophthalmology practice. A lot of ophthalmologists, I mean, a lot of us are trained and we have visions, what we want to do. Some will work in the academics, with the government, and some with entrepreneurship spirit would like to start up something. I just fall into that sort of group after doing my fellowship and being a consultant in UK and in Saudi Arabia. I thought, well, it's time I do something for myself. And we thank God today that we'll be able to achieve quite a lot. So I just want to share my experience so that other ophthalmologists, young and those that come in the future generation, don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can have basis to look at things and motivate themselves to get to the desired height at a faster rate than we did. So most important is a startup. I mean, we have a dream. And bringing the real dream to a reality could be a challenge. So if you have the entrepreneurial spirit and you feel that you want to start your own practice, the first thing is you have to define your goal. What do you really want to do? Do you want a solo practice whereby you start your practice and you are the only one there, and along the line, you might change your mind? Or do you want to belong to a group practice whereby 2 or 3 or more of you can come together and form a group? And from there, other things will follow. So most important, whatever you want to do is to think it through. You have to do a good feasibility studies, which some of us don't. We just decide to do things and we just go into it. You must be able to decide your location. Location is very important in any business. You must be feasible. Most locations that are feasible are sometimes very expensive at the beginning. So you must put that into consideration. You also must do a market survey. And that market survey, you have to look at those high care units that are around you. Are they concentrated in one area? Do you want to be in that area and therefore with a stiff competition? Or do you want to go to somewhere where you don't have that sort of a lot of eye clinics around? So you must look at your market target and market segmentation. What sort of people do you want to serve? What sort of income are you expecting? And what skills do you have to offer? So you have to sit down and put pen on the paper to analyze this and see your strength and where you can before you leap into that market. And most important, to guide this decision is that when you are starting, you must also visualize the end of your journey. That is, there must be an exit strategy. Some of us do think that when we start a business, we'll be there forever. No. If you decide to go on a solo practice, you must know that all your strength will end up in developing yourself. You are the key guy, and you are going to do all the job. You can employ people around you, other member of your team, but at the end of the day, you must decide your exit strategy. Because if something happens to you, that's the end of that practice, because you've only developed yourself. But if you decide to go into a group practice or take it further to go into training and have the vision of creating an institution, your exit strategy will be quite different. Then you must be prepared to really create a robust institution. So while thinking of what to do, be very, very sure that you've created a path that you know you have the strength to see through to a logical conclusion. Having said that, very important for startup to consider after looking at your aims the competition, the competitors around your location, and then you decide that, okay, this is where I want to put a practice. You have to think about the funding. How do you fund your practice? Is it through personal savings, or you have relatives, parents who are well off, who can make the money available? Or are you going to take a loan in order to get all things you want to start that practice? So whatever you decided, you must have a very good financial model and how you're going to manage the fund. So if you're the type who's got the fund and everything, you work for it, you save for it, then you can go for it. If you're going to get support from your family, what sort of relationship that support? Is that support going to be free of charge? Are you going to refund the money later? So it's a sort of soft loan. But if you have to go to the bank to borrow money, I will advise that your GR ratio must not be more than 1:1 or 1:2. That is the amount of money you're going to borrow with the amount of money you put in your business. It could be either 50-50 or a little bit GR 1:2, because the moment you borrow money, there's interest going on, and that may drive you, put you in a difficult situation in terms of repayment of the loan. Some of the loans you might ask for a moratorium of about 6 months to 1 year. That will help. During that time, you only be paying interest only, not the capital. So that gives you room to develop a practice to start generating funds that will be able to pay back the loan. However, one of the most important in terms of funding is how you manage those funds. You must decide from the beginning to pay yourself a salary. And you must be able to create a financial model, knowing that this is a business. It is not an extension in your pocket. The rules, you cannot put your hands in those funds. Come thunder, lightning, or rain, whatever you need. You pay yourself, and what you have the right to do within that business is to spend the money that you pay yourself. And what you pay yourself also depends on your earning, your revenue drive during this period. It must be reasonable. And remember that you have to have a team. You may start small with one nurse or other people that are needed to run that institution. However, you must be aware of the statutory requirement that once your staff are more than 10, you'll be liable to start paying some statutory fees. So be aware of all the rules, the statutory rules that can start draining your business while you've not made enough return. So try and guide through. Look at the pension scheme. Look at the fund, the training contribution to national insurance training funds, and many other things that are statutory. Look at the minimum number of staff you must have before this is applicable. So all these are very important so that you don't start draining your resources just at the beginning. Another good thing we should look at is your business will depend on supply chain. As a business, as an ophthalmic practice, you need equipment, you need very good drugs and also consumables. So that might lead to your putting some of these things in stocks. You must be able to know, because when you buy all these things and put it in stock, you're keeping money. So you have to know what are the variables you must put in place so that you don't tie money down in stock, but you can have access to those. But from our own experience, it's very tough in Nigeria. There's always out of stock syndrome in terms of drugs, in terms of consumables, and even equipment. The prices are just unimaginable. So before you go into business, you must take care of all this to ensure that you have a regular supply of drugs. In our own case, when we started, we make sure that we have collaboration and probably float another company that works with some of these as agents for some of these equipment supply, the drug supply, and other consumables. So that's sort of guarantees you a continual flow of supply. But if you don't have, not everybody will have that opportunity, you must always look for those companies that can supply you, and also try as much as possible to negotiate variable from 30 days to 90 days in terms of payment. That way is like giving you a free loan, so that will enable you to at least generate the money and be able to pay back. However, do not fall into a mistake or that when you are generating this money, you must keep the money apart such that you can meet your financial obligation to those who trusted you and giving you that number of cycle of days in drugs. If you don't do that, you might discover that you spend the money on unnecessary things or consumables or put them in stock whereby you cannot meet those obligations. So this is very important to have a rule that whatever debt you are incurring, whatever facilities begin to you, they take priorities over other things. Your debt, you must pay on time. And that gives you good credibility and easily make it available for you to through that credibility to increase the gap as you are getting expanding or your sales are getting up, you get a continuous flow of supply and be a good customer to you and be able to satisfy your clients. A very important part for startups are the human resources. You have to start lean. You have to start small. You have to be polyvalent at the same time. The sort of staff you engage at the beginning, they must be able to have the skill to multitask. And it's better you look for someone who's got that talent. It might come with a premium, but it's better for you to earn a lower salary in order to get the best staff to run your institution and make sure that you can easily at least do what is necessary in terms of promoting good customer service. And this is very important. And also important when you're a startup is to make retails your priorities. When we started in one office, Ribadu Road, with Humana Medical Center, within a short time, I discovered that more than 75% of the revenues we generated are with corporate organization, banks, or colleagues who refer patients and to pay you later. And you just discovered that 75% of those funds are out there, and only 25% which are retail patients that are available in cash. With that, it was difficult because you're acting like a bank. You are giving people free service and looking at a 30-day cycle, or even sometimes up to 90-day cycle before you get the money back. What happens between that? How do you buffer your practice to pay your salary, to get your stocks in place? That means you may have to incurring debts. So during that time, I made up my mind that we are not going to do retainership. We are not going to give credit. And if we have to give minimum 25% of our services, we only go to that sort of institution of retainership or inter-referral from other hospitals where we collect the money later. So we focus on retail. And we have about 75% of retail because that's cash and carry. That means cash is very important. That drives your business and help you to be able to maintain your staff and standard required during this time. And we've kept that culture up to today. 85 to 95% to 90% of our revenue are from retails. The rest are for, even when we agree to give credit service to banks or credit institutions, we pick them. We make sure that once we can get our money back. Not to talk of now that HMOs more or less, with due respect, they pauperize the institutions, they pauperize the providers. They get the service, It's not all the HMO that they want to pay, and they want to pay you peanuts. And they also promise to give you volume, but you never get that volume. So you have to recalibrate. There might be other people who have the magic to deal with these HMOs, but the most important is you must make sure that you meet your needs. Don't throw all your efforts into that where there's no immediate return. So I would advise all startup that at least 75% of your services should be on retail so that you can at least generate cash and have a good cash flow. Now, one important area we often overlook as a startup is that area of customer service. If you want to focus on retail as part of your revenue generation, the core of your revenue generation, you have to make sure that you have excellent customer service. And that customer service starts right away from the entrance. If you have entrance into your hospital, if you have security men, they must be polished. They must be nice to the patients. Help them to park, see them through. Your reception must be first class. We often make the mistake as startup to just get a young people, somebody cheap to be at the reception. At the end of the day, they may not be able to interact in such a way that is impressive to your customer, and you might lose your customer right from there. So you have to invest on someone that will give a very good customer service. Patients must be delighted at coming to your hospital. Even right away from that, you must be able to see through to your consulting room. And as a startup, you also have to start seeing yourself as a marketer. You don't have to sit in your office and expect the patient. So you got to move around. You have to go to the customer service and see what they're doing. You have to treat the patient like a king. You see them to your room. You got a lot of things to impress the patient that they are being treated in a humane way, and also they are getting value for their service. A good thing that you must do is initially your focus should be to build a name. Do not focus on creating wealth. You need the wealth, but initially try to build a name, try to build a relationship, try to personalize your relation with your patients. And that is very important to the patients. And once you've done that, you've created a dependency whereby the patient wants to see you most of the time and have trust in you and check on your patients. In that way, they will have the confidence. They will be your referral points. Improve your retail services, and at the end of the day, you make the money. So the key thing is to make your name first, and the money will follow you. But if you try to make the money first by not being straightforward, by pressurizing patients or trying to provide a service they don't need in order to make money to meet your needs, at the end of the day, you lose the patient. And at the end of the day, you lose your conscience, and your practice will suffer for it. So create the name. And once you create the name, then the wealth will follow you. And you have to learn to manage the wealth very well. Key factor in success of a startup is the teamwork. You must have a team. However lean that team might involve an optometrist, might involve an ophthalmic nurse, or even ophthalmic practitioners. You have to work as a team. You have to provide a supervisory role. And you have to make sure that you understand the process yourself. There's nothing they can do that you can't do. And you have to keep the standard. You do not expect your staff to be at work at 7:30 and you are working in at 10. You have to be there first. If your target is 7:30, if your target is 8 o'clock opening, you be there 7:30. You take the responsibility and the leadership, and you see that your team will follow you because they know that you are going to be there yourself. But if you are laid back with other interests and you don't get there on time, definitely your team we do the same. So it's very important that as a leader, you work with the team, you direct the team, and you lead by example. And you create the standard in terms of neatness, environment, service, mannerism, and then you build a culture and see that team as a family. As you expect the best from them, you also give them the best. You have to be firm and fair. And once you create a culture within that organization, that culture will reflect down the line. And you create a core value that's everybody standing for. In our foundation, along the line, we develop a core value. Everybody within the system knows the core value. And once that is there, you probably have a good institution, however small, but that you can clone for virtual development and other things. Important when you are starting your practice is the pricing. You must get the pricing right. You must be sensitive to the disposable income of where you desire to put your practice. If you put your practice in eyebrow area, then you know that the disposable income of those people are high. You must give them commensurate aesthetic and environment to show that they get that. If you are in a place where disposable income is medium class, then you have to do your pricing along that way. And if you've in a located where most of the people are at the bottom of the pyramid, then you must be able to charge them what they can afford. Your approach in handling the business model will vary. If you are at the bottom of the pyramid, you don't need sophisticated equipment, all this in order, but you need a volume. And that volume may be able to break even. And then you can migrate to another level where you can start seeing all that. In our own case, from the beginning, we created a social enterprise model whereby we started at the high end of the class that can afford. And also doing that means that you have to invest in top level, up-to-date equipment and all the technology that is available, because these people can migrate, they do migrate a lot, they go overseas for treatment and they see the standard there. So you have to meet that standard. If you're looking at the middle class, you also have to meet the standard, the minimum standard of exposure that sort of people have. And if you have to look at the bottom of the pyramid, then you know you have to have people who can understand the social system in order to be able to identify those who you need to help. In our model, we were very successful at the peak of the pyramid in putting in place infrastructures that is top class. But we're also successful at the bottom of the pyramid because we're able to do a sliding scale pricing whereby everybody can have access to service. As you all know, as ophthalmologists, you should not just be interested in your practice alone or your skill. You must also be interested in what you do in terms of economics, in terms of cost of materials, in terms of services available. A cataract is a very good example. You can do cataract for basic 10,000, 20,000 naira to almost $1 million naira. You have the lenses, variable cost of lenses. I mean, if you are ordering a high volume of lenses, if there's good collaboration within your ophthalmologist, you can get a lens for $2 if you are ordering about 10,000, 20,000 lenses. And those ones you can do with SIG, provide services as a cheap rate for those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, and the volume will translate, even if you are making just 2,000 naira or 5,000 naira, through that. And if you're seeing patients running to hundreds, a figure, that money can translate to millions, and you'll be able to at least create a sustainable program for those at that level. But as you migrate upwards, the people need their laser, phaco emulsification, laser, pure cataract surgery, or multifocal lenses. All those, the prices goes up. So you have to create a balance, understand the market where you're operating, look at the need of the people, and then create that sort of social enterprise whereby anybody can have entry into your practice, but you must be prepared to meet their needs at the various times. So that's very, very important. Another key to success as a startup is frequently having a staff meeting with your group. You must have at least monthly staff meetings. You must be transparent in your relationship with them. Your team must know what the revenues they're generating. And they must also let them know the expenses that are involved. When they know that, then their demands will not be out of place. And they'll be happy that you carry them along. And you yourself must be able to trust your team. However, trust must be verified. You can trust your team, and within that team, there might be those who do not have the honesty due to pressure from one thing or the other, they might undermine your practice. So you must create a system within where you can do some internal auditing. Even if you don't have an auditor and all this, you may not be able to afford all this extensive ramification of auditing, clinical auditing, surgical auditing, and financial auditing. But you can create a mini auditing system. But for you to be successful, you too must be transparent with those staffs. And then you can create a model within your institution where you audit all these things, share it, and make sure that at the end of the day, they have the confidence in you, in your practice, that as member of that institution or practice, they are comfortable that you are not running the place like an extension of your pocket. If they see you that you're running the place like an extension of your pocket, whereby you can take anything out of the practice, they too will do that. But if they see that you are transparent and you run it as a business, however small it is, there'll be some degree of loyalty to your institution. And you must also try to evaluate your staff, their performance, and you yourself must do a self-critical analysis of yourself. You must see whether you're improving from what you are today. Success is mentioned by being improved from what you are today and what you are the days after. So you must pay attention to your knowledge acquisition, conferences, meetings, and make sure that you're on top of things and you're learning more. And you must balance your time in terms of what you do, both at home if you're married, and also internationally, building collaboration and internationally and locally with your colleagues so that you're on top of things. Your success as a startup is bringing all this together and creating a synergy. And therefore, you are creating a competitive edge for yourself. It is that combination of good financial system, ethical system, customer service, and auditing your results that will make things tell you whether you are creating a successful base or not. If a patient should come to you with a vision of 636, and after your surgery, that patient is getting a vision of 618 or more, you must be able to see after you've done all this your surgery, am I adding value to those patients? How many percent of our patients coming to me have 618 and above? How many are having below 636? How many are having counter fingers? By international standard, 80% of your patient, especially in cataract surgery postoperatively, must have 618 and above after removing all comorbidities. And you must try as much as possible to let your patient understand what is going on. In the hand of anybody in this world, whatever you are, complications do arise. However, as a startup, you may not have all it takes to address complications when you're doing surgery. If this should happen, your priority should be that you see that patient to a logical conclusion that patient is given the best, and you can immediately refer that patient to where you think that patient can get the best, even if it's going to be at a cost to you. At the end of the day, it sustains your reputation as a good clinician. So you must be able to collaborate and reach out and give your patient the best. I've seen patients complaining of ophthalmologists and saying there's no surgery for glaucoma. They keep buying their drugs. They keep doing this. If every physician, every ophthalmologist, every practice must know their limitation. If you know your limitation and you imbibe that discipline to your practice and you help your patient to get a better service somewhere, don't think that patient won't come back to you. Even if that patient continue the service the way you refer that patient to, that patient will be your ambassador and will refer more patients to you at that level. So
you are muted, sir. Kindly unmute, sir.
sorry. I don't know how far you heard me last. Is it just a recent thing?
In just few seconds.
Okay, that's all right. So you should make sure that your patient get the best. And you should work with your colleagues to ensure that your patient gets the best. There should be good, make it part of your culture to refer your patients to where they can get the best service. They will always come back to you. And you too, as you build up your practice, you come to that level. It's very important. And when they refer patients to you, or you see a patient from other ophthalmologists as a startup, or even you're not a startup, never condemn your colleagues. I've seen, when I started off, we introduced intraocular lens implant. We do many things that's not been done before. And I remember that most of my time then when we started, we were doing a lot of anterior segment reconstruction. We were doing people who have had cataract surgery, iris prolapse, people who have had a lot of things, and we're doing secondary implants. But I always tell my patient that take into consideration of what is available at the disposal of this ophthalmology. That ophthalmology has given you the best. So you're coming to us because we can add value to do this. It's not because that doctor is not good, but that is what is. And now that you have more technology, that's where you can take it further. One, it gives the patient confidence that you are in a discipline where you respect yourself and you tell yourself the truth. But if you tell your colleague, you tell your patient, oh, don't mind them, those guys, they spoil your eye, or this, we can do it better. Intrinsically, the patient too will get the vibration. We feel that, you're not loyal to your. It's never be there to run down any of your colleagues. The worst you can do, or the best you can do really, is to call your colleagues and ask, I seen this patient and this. With that sort of attitude, your colleagues will be confident to refer patients to you. But don't take it as a gold standard. We're all human beings. We have different idiosyncrasies and limitations, and shortcomings. People have different concepts about life. So what I'm telling you is ideal, but there might be a variation in those ideals, but don't take it and don't let it hurt you or take it personal. Just decide that as far as you're concerned, in your practice, that is what you're going to do. And that will make a lot of difference, and that will define your character. As people always say, the character of a man or a woman is determined by your patience when you have nothing and your attitude when you have everything. So during the phase of your learning phase, you must be extremely patient. You must be able to accept criticism and also do a lot of self-criticism within your practice, so that at the end of the day, when you are formed and you arrive there, you'll be humbled enough to know that everything is through the grace and through collaboration with other people. So all these are very important for a startup to look at things. However, one thing that's important and a startup must appreciate is that the very day you start your business, you must plan your exit strategy. You must. If you don't, you might end up miserable because you may not have the same energy. You may not have. So as your practice is growing and you decide that it's going to be a solo practice, then you must diversify to areas that can create comfort. You must join investment group. From what you earn, join investment group. You can involve in shares. You can decide you want to go into estate. You can decide to do something. You must have something to fall back on, because you must have something that will enable you to give your children the best education. You might not be a money bag, but at least you have a good home to provide comfort for your family. So don't think that the money you're going to make from your practice is going to continue like that exponentially, but you must invest some of that profits in other areas that can take care of you when you're out of practice. And if anything should happen to you, if your practice is good, fine, maybe you can sell it. I don't think selling practice in Nigeria, but abroad, people can sell their practice and they can continue to make money from it. But here, you must find a way to have a constructive investment that you know will yield and that will be able to support you. Because a solo practice only building with individuals, and your exit strategy, the very low equity in your exit strategy. You can sell your equipment, you can sell your building, but all your equipment will probably have been depreciated and there's virtually nothing to sell. The only thing you have to sell is yourself, in the sense that once you're out of the way, you are the resources, generating the resources and the funding. And if you are not there, that place will collapse. But if you decide to go into group practice, that is great. These do create a lot of, in Nigeria, I remember when we started and I soon discovered that I can't do it on my own, I did approach about 6 of my colleagues for us to form a group practice. The infrastructure was there. It's basic, but it was there. And therefore, they do not have to bring a lot of money into that infrastructure. But as a group practice, we can be together, but nobody will start paying you. Because if you decide that you're going to pay yourself, you discover that when you're in that group practice, most of your revenue will be paying your staff, and you'll be having very little to take home. But if you create an institution, create a practice, this is a hospital, and this hospital stands as a business unit. We all work in this hospital. We take our fees. Whatever we do, we take a percentage as a fees. The remaining bulk of the money goes to that institution. So you've created a situation whereby you're a business unit yourself. If you decide to work in that hospital from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., you know you are working for yourself. You are creating wealth for yourself and also creating wealth for the hospital. If you desire to work 3 hours, that's it. So at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you get a percentage of the what you've created for that institution. And that hospital will pay their staffs, buy consumables, do everything that is necessary, and you keep running that place. So what you earn is your service provided, and that's it. And if you're good, you can earn as much as you. Nobody that, oh, I pay this doctor a salary. You cannot pay a doctor a salary. Let's tell you the truth. The moment you pay a salary, the salary is spent. But you can let a doctor create wealth and share the wealth in appropriate percentage of his or her input into that institution. In that way, the doctor can decide to work as many hours, and he has his money, and he'll be able to invest his money. And the doctor, if he wants, can buy share in that hospital. So when there's dividend, the doctor can also earn dividend. In that way, what you're building is an institution. And because of those people who are in that institution, it's easier for you to approach a bank or any financial institution for loan for development or for expanding your program. Because if there's 6 or 4 of you in that hospital, the bank is not seeing one person, they see four people. So if they ask for 2 million, 10 million, it's dividing it among a lot of you. And he knows that if one of you should drop debt or anything, those who are there will pay the loan. That is the strength of a group practice. But what really makes group practice very difficult in Nigeria is by not establishing on a clear-cut basis that you is seen as a business unit with that within the hospital or institution, and you have the right to earn as much as you created the wealth, a percentage belongs to you, irrespective of that. A situation whereby you want the doctor to be paid according to when you are making the money, it will not work because the doctor too have responsibilities. But if you link the doctor to the work created, definitely the doctor will work to the maximum of his capacity, acquire more skills, and there'll be there'll be a healthy rivalry and competition within the system. And there will also be better inter-referral system if they so specialize in specific area. So whatever model you are creating or putting your energy in, if you create that institution, the institution will see you throughout your life. So even if you drop out, either heal ahead or anything, that institution will be able to take care of you. Because you've generated the wealth. And that wealth you generate for that institution will also take care of other things if something happens to you. So it's for you to decide whether you want to come together and learn how to create institution. Institution lasts forever and take care of you throughout your life if it's well organized and planned. So when you want to do that as a startup, even if you start on your own, gradually think of your exit strategy. Am I going to invite people to the practice? Am I going to pull the practice and get investors to create a hospital or an institution that is there, and that institution will go on forever? An important thing to consider as a startup is also what is your position in terms of training. Human resources is key to the success of any organization. So a percentage of the money must also involve in training. We have been successful because right from the beginning, we decided to train. We train residents, we put in residency program in place. It costs us a fortune. But at the long run, it pays off. We train nurses, we train ophthalmic practitioners. We made training part of our program. And the strength is in human resources. And that's will enable you to clone your institution as you're expanding and create a new group platform for young doctors or whoever is coming out of the institution. And that's how you were able to build a group, the Eye Foundation Hospital Group. So all these things are very important. Right away from the beginning, determine what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how to put the whole jigsaw together and to reach a final position where your exit strategy could make a meaning and you can retire successfully. These are the things we have to put together to think of, and there's a wide knowledge out there that for this present generation, those who are just beginning, to tap into in order to continue to build more institutions in sub-Saharan Africa that's sustainable, as you've seen in India, Aravind, Ivy Prasad. We can have a replication of this in this country, and it will be in the interest of our patients and also in the interest of the profession, and guarantee our own future in all things we do. I think I have to stop here. Thank you very much for listening to me. And if there's any question, I'll be prepared to take some. Thank you.
For sharing your wealth of knowledge there. We have one question. And here, please post your questions in the chat group so that way they can be dealt with faster. This is from Michael, and he says, a great lecture. I have a question. At what point would you consider setting up a new branch? And in doing so, would you want to start afresh, or you'd prefer to have a joint venture with an existing facility? This is Dr. Giasi of Ghana.
Okay. Is that all the question, or want us to take it one by one?
That's one that has come in. Okay, there's another one. This is from Dr. Ajayi Obe, who says that great point on the exit strategy. It is a shame that the amount of energy put into developing and running a practice goes to waste, as there is usually no succession planning when it comes to businesses in Nigeria. As a CEO of a practice you have developed, you have developed customers through reputation and trust, usually over 30 to 50 years. And for this to die with the founder, if you focus on the patient's needs, then you should owe it to the patients and their future generations for the practice to survive. Okay, I think that's just a comment. Another question is, what specific strategies would you use in convincing the hard to convince colleagues to join you in creating a joint venture? So what specific strategies would you use in convincing the hard to convince colleagues to join you in creating a joint venture? That is from Dr. Kiasi as well of Ghana. Dr. Annie says, awesome presentation. Then Dr. Fatima, oh sorry, this is Fatima, I guess. What are the common areas of inefficiencies that startups should watch for? What are the common areas of inefficiencies that startups should watch for?
Yeah. Okay. I think we can.
Sorry, and then another one from, I believe this is Professor Akin Shola. How do you deal with inflation and pricing of services? Says, many thanks for your insightful lecture, quite illuminating. How do you deal with inflation and pricing of services? This is from Kefa again.
How do you deal with
pricing of services? With inflation and pricing of services. This is from Akin Shola.
All right. Okay, let me take them one by one. Yeah, in terms of what point do you start a new branch, a new facilities, whether you, okay, from the word go, you make up your mind what you want. If you are the founder and you created something, you must have a large heart to share. Never think that you have to control everything. You have to make a lot of sacrifice to bring those you want to bring into your practice. Some of them will not be up to your standard. You must invest in their training to bring them up to your standard, even to make sure that they are better than you. If you don't have that goal, that they're going to be better than you, you will not be successful. I remember when we started, a lot of people asked me, you're spending so much resources on these young guys. You are these days, they will leave you and come and start a hospital near you, and this, they will stab you. I said, fine, that's okay. Christ healed 10 lepers. Only one came back to say thank you. And that one, he said, well, you are whole. So the other ones healed, have their crooked hands healed, but the one that came back was fully, everything restored. So if I get 1 out of 10, that's okay, but at least we get 1. If you go with that sort of mentality, you are likely to get more. So if you decide that, okay, I'm going to keep this as my practice, this is the golden egg that laid, the goose that lays the golden egg, and I'm going to create another one, it's not going to work. You got to use that your standard, that gold standard, the one you've created. Bring people in. Evaluate the practice, the worth of the practice. If some of them want to buy shares in that practice, fine. Just make sure you do the paid legal work properly. If some of them just want to work there, fine. But at the end of the day, what is there is that you cannot earn what you do not create. They must create the wealth. And you all decided that whatever we do here, this is the fee we pay ourselves for everything we touch, the other goes to that institution. So those who invested their money there can have a dividend. And those who did not invest can still make a living. I always tell my colleagues, if you get a bank, you want a bank, you have a bank, you want a CEO of a bank, to move forward. You don't tell the CEO that until you make the money, that's when we're going to pay you. You pay the CEO a lot of money and give that person a target. And when they meet their target, fine. If they don't, you fire. So why don't you do the same thing with doctors? You don't expect doctors to spend years and have nothing to take home. This institution, this is what you earn. And as you work hard, you get more money. If you don't, no. So we should have a mindset that doctors, the reward of doctors are in heaven, or these, they're like teachers. No. Let them work hard. They have families, they have aspiration, they have children, they have to go to school, and they have to live within the society at least up to a standard that is expected. So have the belief that what you build, throw it in, and let them take it a higher high, create more wealth, and let them share the wealth. At the end of the day, you will have a greater wealth created for yourself than when you're running it alone, and a good exit strategy. And that institution will remain forever. And you can always earn dividend from your shares. And at your exit, you can sell your shares. You can sell part of your shares and make good money, and you can retire well. So the institution worth depends on how many people are working in, how many talents, how many skills. Don't worry about the initial stage. Initial stage, you're going to lose money because you're investing in people. And if you pick the right people and you share the same vision, at the end of the day, you are better off. In terms of, thanks for the comment on exit strategy, which is very important. What specific strategy will you in convincing colleagues in creating a joint venture? Let me tell you, I've passed through that when we first started. We had everything in place, and the hospital were there, and I could see the limitation that I can't do it alone. I invited about 6 colleagues. At that time, I told them that from what is on the ground, I'm ready to, throw it in. I asked each of the colleagues then to contribute 150,000 naira. and pick chairs in the organization from the valuation. And I told them, the moment you do, I guarantee you, you can earn 50,000 naira a month. This is about 20 something years ago. That was a lot of money. But they laughed. They said, it's not possible. I cannot put 50,000 naira in a business, and I'm going to immediately join together a joint venture and earning 50,000. That means what I put in is off within 3 months. They did it. They thought it was a gimmick. But what they did not understand is the fact that there's already a business investment on the ground. And we've calculated the revenue generated by that. And we also calculated the profit. So it's possible. And we calculated that by 6 of us coming together, we can quadruple the income of that institution and also develop this patient volume. Because each of the consultants have a sphere of influence. And when you bring the bubbles of those sphere of influence together, you enlarge it. The overhead in that institution, the equipment, the fixed costs are the same. But you expanded the variables that generate resources, and sweating the assets. So we see that more money will come. But you have to have an entrepreneurship and a business mind to be able to capture that. All of them were unable to do that. So I was left on my own. And that's what stimulated the idea that if we want to succeed, we've got to train. And that's how we start our training institution. When you train in a culture and the product of that institution understand what you're doing, you are likely to expand. And that's how we started residency training. And that's what has make it possible, because the culture of the organization is understood by those residents. And those of them that really wants to be part of that culture will make a difference. And I can say up to today, all those we've trained, except those we asked to leave our institution, either we can't retain everybody, are all within that institution. So that is very important. In convincing people, they must have a mindset that are similar. They must understand the philosophy behind your business model and also how to develop. So you need to do a lot of work. But experience have shown that the younger they are, the better. Because as they're getting older, they have so many extra luggages. They have school fees to pay. They have all sorts of things to pay. So they are very difficult to put in a structured system where they cannot have financial independence and control. So probably look at the younger ones that are coming out and really expose them to a lot of financial management, a lot of training, management skills, and to look into the future to develop the entrepreneurial spirit, which is needed. If not, by the time you finish, the business guys that will take the joint ventures and all these things will take the business, and ophthalmology will be working for them. What are the areas of what to watch for inefficient in startup? The startup to watch for area of inefficiency. One of the most important for startup is your patient waiting time. If you're going to start or something, you must offer something different. That's why I said the doctors themselves are not staying in their office. They must be moving around. And you try to create a patient waiting time that is efficient. Once you are sure of every patient, and 2, you keep your records. Doctors lose a lot of money because they don't keep their records. They are in their office and they depend on it. But if you have a standard format, anybody coming to your office, right from the receptionist, right to the nurses, to your accounts, everybody keeps their records. The number of patients seen, what is paid, what service is provided, and you yourself, at the end of the day, your startup, you have a computer, a spreadsheet, you must at the end of the day sit down to populate all those things, and you must see what you are earning. If you don't take care of that right away from the beginning, you will have a lot of cash being diverted. So important is have your daily sales chart. know what you generate. Don't worry, the staffs, they should know what they generate. But also, that's why you should have the offer meeting. Let them know what it costs in terms of rent, in terms of energy, in terms of salary, in terms of, they may see that even at the end of the month, you hardly have nothing left. When they're aware of that, it gives them a sense of community and give them some transfer of ownership that they have to work harder. You have to set goals. In terms of pricing, how you deal with inflation and pricing? Well, I shared with us, a lot of people, what we did is this. If you buy an equipment, you have to think of replacing the replacement costs, and you can't add the profit. Let's say you buy an equipment for 1 million naira. You have to decide that to replace it is another 1 million naira. Let me make a profit of 1 million on this machine. Building inflation is like in Nigeria, you buy something for $10,000. It's going to use for 3 years. In 3 years, your $10,000 might be 3 million naira. In 3 years, your $10,000 might be 5 million naira. So already there's a lot of foreign exchange risk in those ones. So you price it, your replacement cost, you must build in the price of the value in terms of dollar or a stable currency. So you say, I spent $10,000 on this equipment, I must replace $10,000, I must pay the profit $10,000. Divide that value by the number of patients you project that you're going to see for that lifespan of that equipment. Maybe say you depreciate it 4 years, 25% depreciation on this equipment 4 years. You decide how many patients will I see. If I can see 200 patients, divided, this is the price at which I can use this equipment so that I can break even and achieve my goal. The larger the number of patients you can see, the smaller the price you're going to give. So you must have how you are going to sweat the equity on that equipment. How I'm going to get more people to use it. What do I put in place? And this will decide your price. Even at the lower level, even looking at drugs, when you have drugs, if you buy drugs for a fact at say X value, you must have a margin because it's from those things that you're going to make a profit. There are things in your business that are key drivers of your business: surgery, procedures, drugs. There are other things, there are machines you can have that are just there for 5 years, they may not even see 100 patients. And then once you can see that 5 years, you can see 500 patients. So you have to do your financial model and look at all these projections, and that will give you a value of what you need in order to survive, and that will determine your pricing. And that's why I mentioned earlier, your location is very important. The type of service you're providing is very important. And if you are in a low-level area, volume is the key. Even if your margin is small, the volume is spread, you still make profit. If you're in a middle-class area, the same thing. You know the type of equipment you're going to put in a middle-class area. You can put an OCT in a class. There are many variations and generations of OCT. You see what they can pay for. You don't go and put an OCT and geography in an area where they cannot pay for it. So all this should determine what you put in your practice, what the people, the location of practice, what people, the earning capacity of that state or where you are, and what the people can pay. So all this will help you in dealing with inflation and pricing of your services so that at the end of the day, you can float and make a living out of your sweat. I think that's my response to those questions. Back to you, Dr. Harriman.
Now, there's a question wasn't answered last time, so we'll just bring it forward by a guest from Uyo. he said, this was from the first lecture, he said, please could you share with us on the future of eye care practice as it has to do with interprofessional partnership in the eye care sector. Please could you share with us on the future of eye care practice as it has to do with interprofessional partnership in eye care sector.
If I understand the question very well, what is asking is that the future of ophthalmic practice among the colleagues, interprofessional, that means within ophthalmologists or with other professionals.
Interprofessional partnership in the eye care sector.
If you're looking at that, you see, the earlier we grasp that fact, that's a very important question. The earlier we get the fact that we've got, I always tell my colleagues, we don't have to be friends to work together, but we can share a common goal. And if that common goal is the survival of that profession, of our profession, to ensure that we're well placed in the society and we can earn a good living. And the key thing is the standard of a practice, regulation of standard of a practice, and good audit so that we give good results according to WHO standard. As we mentioned in cataract surgery. If we can focus on that, then things get easier. People will subspecialize. When you subspecialize, you create a niche for yourself. And as more people subspecialize, then there's no need, for competition on all these things or that. We collaborate. I did mention it, I remember one time when I was in the ophthalmological side of Nigeria, West Africa, and I told them that, the best way to build this profession is pick all the institutions. You cannot develop all the subspecialty together at the same time. Pick specific institution. If UCH is top-notch in neuro-ophthalmology, these days, retina, fine. Pick another institution. If it's oculoplastic and not fine, let each institution be known for a specific subspecialty that is top-notch, with bias to providing the top-notch equipment at the expense of all specialties, and rotate your fellows, rotate your residents at a level to all those ones. When you rotate them, that they have the best in all this, your residents also rotate to another hospital. It will they create a bond between them at each of the host recipient institution. And by the time they pass through, it's easy for them to continue along that line and clone what their predecessors done as they create new institutions, until we get to a level that each institution can now develop more specialties. But if we are competing at the various specialties, an institution has about 10 subspecialties, they're competing for funding of equipment, it will not work. We just pull ourselves down. So the key thing is within your environment, look at those guys who are there, their skills, and try to see how you can collaborate and transfer the skills. The patients are there, and the more you do, there's enough glory for everybody. We are just touching the tip of the iceberg in a huge population like this. If we can have that genuine interest to transfer skill and to train and to know that, you see, when you train, in those days, when you look at the Ibadan and all those, they look at the time of Professor Oluni, the Professor Osuntokun and co. If you see the sort of paper those people had, their husbands were neurologists and all these things. If you see the sort of collaboration of papers they're producing at that level, it's difficult for us to do that now. And that's what makes University of Ibadan being at the top. But it's not rocket science. We can invent this. It's the desire to not to care about who gets the glory, but get the jobs done. And when we get the jobs done, the glory will percolate through all the system. So we've got to have a vision that is larger than us, beyond us, a vision that passes to the next generation, a vision that sets the younger generation free to think, experiment without condemnation, and to be a role model to them. At the end of the day, like Professor Lambo used to tell me, whether you stay relevant in your profession or in the society depends on the investments you made in the younger ones. If you made a very good investment, you will go down. Everybody will come down. However brilliant you are, your strength will gradually fade. But how long you related to that firm of being at the top there, it is those that you invested in that will keep you to the top there and make you relevant. You know, a good example is myself. I'm 70s, I'm not as active as before, but I was able to keep on because I have the younger ones who I can call on, who can do this, and we always remain relevant at that level. So let us all see ourselves as building a bridge between the generations, investing in them. I'm sure that with them there, oh yeah, things will move on. Unless we're doing that, Professor Kishola, I was at your lecture, and there at that lecture we have Professor Najeko Dumi there, there's Dr. Ajayi, all the older guys were all there. Okay, and you can see that the strength of that organization is the younger ones that were in the crowd, the younger ones you've trained. Those are the ones that were excited to be part of the success story. So if you are part of the success story of the younger ones, you always be relevant throughout your life at the end. So that is why it's very important to see how we can collaborate, to see how we can have interpersonal and interprofessional collaboration, and respecting those who have that competitive edge and see them as a source of strength rather than a competition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have just 3 minutes left. This is the last question. This is from Adepoju Fei and Dr. or Adepoju asks, the member of Farmers Group. This is the last question.
I didn't hear you. There was a little bit interference. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, this is from Fei Adepoju. Is there a minimum benchmark of performance by members of the group? Maybe my internet is not too good.
A minimum benchmark
of performance.
Yes.
By members of the group. I guess talking about group practice.
Yeah, a minimum benchmark performance by members of the group.
Yes, sir.
See, when you have a group practice, definitely everybody will have to contribute something in different specialty or general ophthalmology practice or whatever it is. Your basic qualification and training is the minimum benchmark in terms of professional qualification. That is, and you must also have subspecialized in certain area. You don't all in the group start scrambling for the bread and butter of ophthalmology. The bread and butter of ophthalmology, most people will do cataract surgery, we do it, but when it comes to glaucoma, retina, different subspecialty, pediatrics ophthalmology and all these things, you must have a group that have subspecialties in different areas so that the bread and butter of ophthalmology is down there. Everybody can do whatever they do, but those we add value to it in that subspecialty. And if within the group there are more than one or two of subspecialty, as the volume increases, also in our group we have about 3 retina surgeons, that glaucoma specialists, and all this. So it doesn't have to be one. Even when it's more, when you're more than one, it creates a very good competitive edge in the sense that you can relate, you can inter-refer, you can do all those things. But when it comes to bottom line, when you're in a group practice, clinical and surgical audit is very important. Like we do in Ijebu, Dr. Ayman, at the academy, every patient post-op, first day post-op. You do a cataract surgery, the following morning, the post-op is mentioned. At the presentation in the morning, the following day, all the consultants' names are there, all the senior resident or fellows' names are there. This is the surgery you do, this is the first day post-op, and this is the result. So introducing a surgical audit puts everybody on their toes, that they expect the best performance from them. If you are getting constantly below the international standard of 80% above 618 post-surgery without comorbidity, then something is wrong with you. Then you may have to go for retraining in your phaco. You may have to, so because there are colleagues there, you can ask them to, so that helps to keep the standard going. So minimum performance can be scaled over many headings. You know your basic qualification, you know your specialization, but your clinical and surgical output result must be evaluated to show that you have a minimum standard required for the name of that institution, because the patient comes in, if they go out with bad results, they will not come back. But if they go out with good results, they will refer more. So that is why clinical and surgical audits is very important, to keep everybody on their toes and also enable us to have a moral and ethical approach to see patients, not for the money. A patient, you ask people, why am I operating these patients? Is it necessary? If I've seen a patient that come and referred and say, okay, he has a retina something, and yeah, but I look at it, at the end of the day, this patient, I cannot give the vision back. He's an old retina. Why do I want to operate? Ask the patient, well, this is a situation. If you have this money, please use it to go and take care of yourself, because you cannot, instead of spending. So there are ethical issues. There's also clinical and surgical issues, which ones we audit and keep us a standard. And that creates, every institution has a basic level performance standard. So you got to create it within your institution, and you must enforce it. And you don't enforce it by punitive measures, but you enforce it by seeing. And when these things are presented in the presence of nurses, the presence of residents, the presence of everybody, so it's not secret. And that the fact that there's an expectation by the institution, a presentation of clinical, surgical, and all these audits, and more or less intrinsically develop the surgeon that we have a minimum performance level, because it's made public within the institution. I hope that answered the question.
So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the time spent. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing the tips about startups. I also want to thank every one of us that have waited till now. We'll try not to go beyond an hour and a half in lectures. And we look forward to having you again on the 1st of May, which is the first Saturday. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend, everyone. Happy Easter.